Hey there! Welcome back to Effortless Ecology. I'm Sierra, and we are continuing our conversation about the organism level of effortless ecology. This is based on 4 tenets that I have personally used to identify for myself, like better ways as an organism, as the individual, to engage with my environment, right? And so that's what this is about. Effortless ecology is the concept of ways that we can create a better future. What does it look like to have environmental stewardship and social responsibility and bringing that to the world? And so the 4 tenets are integrity, responsibility, honesty, and authenticity. And so our last video, we were talking a little bit about integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing as well as being your word. And we talked a little bit in doing the right thing and how that relates to responsibility and our responsibility as a society. Responsibility also has like a couple of its own little side pieces, right? So, responsibility is, to me, taking accountability for the things that you create in your life. Okay. And so, something that I have noticed and that other folks might have noticed is that it's very easy. It's very easy to walk through life feeling like things are happening to us. And when it comes to creating a life that you want to live, creating a world that we want to be a part of, what does it look like to be accountable for the things that we see in our life? What does it look like to be responsible for all of it? What does it look like to be the author? So if every, cause and effect, right? If every action has an, equal and opposite reaction, what are the things that we're creating in our life that are creating the effects that we see in our life? And so it's really easy to like say like fuck, all of these things are happening to me. Like why does this always happen to me? Why does whatever it is always happen to me? Why do people always break up with me? Why do people always cheat on me? Why is my boss always mean to me? Like what does that feel like? It feels so bad. I don't know. Like to me, when I'm living in a place of feeling like everything is happening to me, it just feels really bad. It feels shitty. Like it doesn't feel good to feel like I don't have control in my life. And sure, like there are some things that are out of our hands. But what does it look like? What is a different way of looking at life where we can look at things and say, yes, I can see where the decisions that I have made have created the results that I am seeing. Right. And so like I can see where um maybe I am goofing off at work, or maybe I'm giving my boss an attitude and that's why my boss doesn't, entrust me with these new projects. Or maybe I'm standoffish in my relationships or like not communicating the best. And maybe people, it's hard to build a relationship with me for that reason. Maybe I'm not being honest, right? Ding ding, there's another connection to one of our tenants right there. What does it look like to say like, yeah, I know that because I messed up on this project, that's why I got fired, right? Or I cheating and like other things, like sometimes it's hard. Like I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes there are bad things happen. Okay. I'm definitely not trying to underestimate or understate that. There are really bad things that happen. And victim blaming also isn't the answer, but choosing to exist in the victim and in the stories about where we're constantly being wronged ends up creating this like level and level of disempowerment for other areas of our life. And so what does it look like to take responsibility? It's like, yeah, I fucked up. And so this is what happened because of that. Or like, I didn't try hard enough, and so this is what happened. Or, I said something wrong. I said something harsh, I said something mean, and acknowledging like that can impact relationships. Taking responsibility for like, right? Like if you're not being in integrity with your workout, you're not losing weight or you're not gaining muscle, whatever that is, you can't really, like you're gonna just be like, oh, I'm just too busy, right? You're just too busy. That's not being in responsibility with yourself of being like, yes, this is what I want, and so I'm going to make it happen. And when it comes to social responsibility, right? Like that's being responsible to ourselves of the results that we're creating in our life, like what we see happening. So like you want a new job, but then you don't end up applying for things, you don't get a new job. Versus you want a new job, you apply for as many things as you possibly can, and you nail those interviews, and then you get a new job, right? Like those are two, like opposite things that could be happening. Um, and instead of being like, well, people just don't want me, versus being like, well, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. That's being in responsibility. And that's being the author of your life, right? Like if life is a video game or a book or whatever, like, right, this is life. Like we only have one of it. So like, don't you want to be in charge, in responsibility, and taking ownership, really is what it is. And then when it comes to responsibility in the social aspect, like as individuals, and when we think about, right, the littering example, we're going to go back to the littering example. I have heard people say, like, this is a personal thing that I've experienced, is hearing people say, like, oh, well, someone's paid to pick that up, right? And I just think that's really unfortunate. And I think it's another example of like where the social contract is breaking down. And so, right, the question is like, what kind of a world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a place that's trashed? Why are we assuming that someone is going to be there to pick up our mess? When it comes to your house, unless you have a house cleaner, right? Like you're the one picking up your mess and you're the one creating the mess. And so when it comes to our social agreement, what kind of messes have been created? And how are we taking responsibility instead of being like, well, someone else will take care of it. It's someone else's problem. It's someone else's fault. What does it look like if we say, I can see where I participated and it contributed to this. My litter makes a dirtier city. I, instead, because I want to live on a beautiful street or in my beautiful home, I pick up after myself and I throw things away. And so that's the question, is like, what kind of a world do we want to live in? What kind of a house do you want to live in? What kind of a experience of life do you want to live in? Is what that really boils down to. And so responsibility is being in charge, being in the lead of your own life, not choosing to not just let things happen to you, but to be the director of what happens, and choosing to say, yes, I'm owning this, whatever the result is, and I can see where things went wrong. And that actually connects, right? It's all connected to our next concept, which is honesty. And to be in responsibility, to recognize like where, the results, the cause and effects in our life are happening, requires honesty with ourselves of seeing our part in it. Being in integrity as well, right? Like doing the right thing and doing what we say we're going to do, taking responsibility for that requires that we be honest with ourselves. And so we will talk about honesty a little bit in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear some of your thoughts. And so please do comment below. Please share. I hope that this maybe spurs some conversation among you and your community. Like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever it is that folks do on this website. And thank you so much for joining me again. This is Effortless Ecology, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.